Hey guys, this is video number 5 on everything that you need to know to fish a kayak tournament. In this, I'm going to go over some things you need to consider when you buy a kayak. These kayaks that you see here at Walmart are inexpensive kayaks, but any one of these kayaks with a paddle can put you on the water and you can start fishing right away. What you need to consider when you buy a kayak is what you're going to use your kayak for, whether it's just going to be everyday fun fishing or if you want to use it for tournament fishing also, and if you will ever want to put a motor on it. If you decide you're going to ever want to put a trolling motor on a kayak, you need to consider whether the kayak that you purchase is capable of supporting a motor on it. It may not have a place to put one. A lot of kayaks do not necessarily have a place to put a trolling motor on the bow of it, which is the front of it, when you first purchase it, but there are companies out there who makes adapter plates to go on the front of a kayak that you can put a trolling motor on those. So that's an important thing to consider when you look at a kayak is, can you put a trolling motor on it later if you want to? In order to fish a kayak bass tournament, you do not need a motor. I fish a lot of tournaments. Some people in the tournaments do have motors. Some people in the tournament have paddles and no motor. Other people in the tournament has kayak that's got pedals inside the kayak. And all those people fish the same tournaments that I do. A lot of them catch just as many fish as anybody that's got a motor on their kayak. Some of them even win tournaments and they don't have motors on them either. It's not what you're in, it's your fishing capabilities as to whether or not you're going to do well in a tournament. So nothing is wrong with any of these kayaks that you see here, except for a couple of them you see at Walmart that I highly would not recommend. But most of those to the right-hand side of what you see here would work to fish out of. But I don't know that either one of them would be capable of holding a motor on it. What you got to look at, one thing on a kayak is how thin the material is that it's made out of. Some of the inexpensive kayaks, and some of the expensive kayaks even, are made out of very thin material, and they're not ideal to put screws into in order to hold anything to them. So, you can push on a kayak and see how hard the material is. But one thing I would recommend that when you start looking at kayaks is to also consider a used kayak. You can look on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or any other place that you know that they sell used items, and you can probably find a kayak for half or even less than half of what you're going to pay for a new kayak. And that's even important too. You can buy kayaks that's already got trolling motors on them and other equipment that you may want later down the road already on them, and the guy's just ready to get rid of it and he'll sell it at a bargain. If you're not sure about the kayak you're looking at and if it will support whatever item that you want to attach to it, ask somebody that's got knowledge of doing that type as to whether or not you can do that to that kayak. Another thing that you've got to consider is that if you put a motor on a kayak, you've also got to put a battery in there for that motor. If you buy a battery, marine batteries or even a car battery are very heavy. If you buy a lithium battery, they weigh a whole lot less than either of those other two batteries. And you'll also have to be able to put that battery in there somewhere and put it in a battery box. Then you got to run wires from that battery to your trolling motor. So consider that also. And also you got to look at too that you need a good stable kayak, one that you're not going to flip over. If you flip it over, you're going to have a life jacket on, and you should be okay with a life jacket on, but you got to also think about the equipment that you've got in your kayak. If you got a battery in there, it's got to be strapped down, so if you flip it over, it's not going to fall out of it. Any of your fishing equipment, you got to be sure to have it strapped in, or if you flip it over, you're going to possibly lose some of it. your car keys, your wallet, anything like that you got in that kayak, you got to consider if you flip it, are you going to lose it or are you going to damage it? So one thing to consider is buying a good kayak that is very stable. And that stuff that you see there at Walmart, you're not going to be able to stand up in any of that, and odds are you stand a good chance of sooner or later flipping it. And then you got to be kind of particular about what the water condition is that you get out there in that. The very last kayak that you see at the end of all of this is the brand kayak that I have. That is a New Canoe Unlimited. New Canoe makes other models other than the Unlimited, but the Unlimited is the top of the line of what they've got. And in my opinion, from what I've read, mine is probably the most stable of any one that New Canoe has. I can stand in mine, and I can also get in any water condition that I have ever been in Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and I have never worried about flipping my kayak. My kayak, they sell now for like, I think $1,900 new, the Unlimited does. If you get a paddle to go with that, a paddle's $100 or maybe a little over $100 for a paddle. And that's what you would have invested in a kayak like what mine is, with nothing on that kayak but a seat. Anything else you add to it, of course, is going to be additional cost. But one good thing to consider about a kayak like what I've got, it's got tracks on it that you can put 2 seats on that one kayak. That kayak is rated for 650 pounds if the scupper holes are plugged off. Scupper holes are the little holes in the bottom of the kayak that are designed with plugs in them that you can take plugs out, so if you get water in your kayak, the water will go back out into the lake. But if you keep those plugged up, the weight that you're going to be putting in that kayak would only be you and your equipment, which means as long as you and your equipment and even another person in there and another seat weighs 650 pounds or less, you can use that one kayak for 2 people to get out and have a good fun fishing day in it. So that's one advantage in buying a kayak like what I have now. And also, with all the equipment that I've got on mine, I've got a lot of equipment on mine, and mine is very heavy. So I need a kayak that will support my equipment. Another thing that you need to consider is the more weight you put in the kayak, the harder it is going to be to load it if you got to pick it up and put it in the back of a pickup truck. And you end up needing a trailer if you start adding a lot of equipment onto a kayak. I have seen some guys with a trolling motor and batteries and things like that, and when they get ready to load it, they take the trolling motor and batteries and stuff off their kayak and then load their kayak by hand. They also make wheels to go onto kayaks that you can put it on the wheels and push it down the lake and put it in the water, and then when you get it back out of the water, you put it back on the wheels and pull it back up to your vehicle. So that's another thing to think about when you're looking at excuse me, when you're looking at purchasing a kayak.